build number 10. Today we're going to talk mainly about the rear bulkheads, which I've cut and dummied up back there. But before we do that, briefly on the front bulkheads, we didn't have this piece in the last time we talked about the front bulkheads. I've cut it and put it in. You can kind of start to see what all the front bulkhead does. This piece right here reinforces the shock mount this way, reinforces the door hinges this way, reinforces the dash this way, still has room to get the spare tire in this way. Another thing that's happened here, you know, we talked about the fold wasn't precise enough for some joints but might work on others, and if you remember, this piece, and this piece is all one piece that's folded up. That fold is still not working out, still not a good idea even on the less precise pieces. This piece is about to be redesigned and rebuilt, and we're gonna improve on this a little bit in the next few videos. But front here, I want to show you something here. This is actually a rear cross member, but I wanted to show you, see the shape of it, see the shapes here, how that is all kind of a similar motif running through the whole car. I want to reference to something on this later, but I just wanted to show you that right now, that everything looks like this right here. Keep that in mind. Let's move to the back of the car. Check my scrap pile as we come by here. It's getting into a pretty substantial amount of scrap aluminum. We ought to be able to have a pretty decent party on that money. Rear bulkheads in place. What we have here, these cross members here, this is a cross member for the front motor mount. This bar here ties the main frame rails together, comes over to the structure of the transmission tunnel here. As the engine sets in here, the pulleys and water pumps sit right about here like this. This is actually the front motor mount. Rev nuts into here. This bolts into that. This right here goes, I have not drilled these holes yet because I want to reference the exact center line of that motor, which I've got it narrowed down to plus or minus a 1/4 inch, but I want to study that a little more. But these holes right here go to the small block holes beside the water pump holes that are typical front motor mount bolt holes for a small block Chevy. Set in there like that. Do the same thing on the other side over here like that. Rear bulkheads. This is the main rear bulkhead. There's over 6 hours of cut time in this, and it's going back in the scrap pile. But it's told me what I needed to know. Same situation. The fold stuff is just not working out. This was supposed to fold around here, and sway bar comes out here, folds here to the shock tower. The tolerances are just not where I want them to be. This bracket actually did work. This is where the exhaust pipes come through, and there's a muffler bracket that goes on that, but this is the other side that's broken off, but not a problem. I'm happy to have learned it and know how to do it now. These bulkheads, a whole lot happening here. This is the sway bar mounts. There's another plate that goes here that is the transaxle mount. That's a separate plate, so that if you want to change to a different brand transaxle or whatever, you change the plate instead of modifying the chassis. See here, the battery sits right in here. This is actually the battery box here. Again, the Don Hardy school. That battery box is a very structural element in the cross member. Most of the time, just about every car built, every hot rod race car in the world uses this battery box right here. Pieces here go on the end. This comes up, catches the battery like that, and it's a nice piece. But the aluminum monocrystal chassis giving me the ability to incorporate the whole thing. Something like this right here. That's what holds the battery in on this. It's all built in, and I just saved $30 for a battery box beside. What did I do with that motor plate that, here it is, that I wanted to reference to? This plate right here, this is the rear motor plate. The plate that is the adapter for the engine and transaxle comes here, bolts with the rib nuts in here. That notch right there is for the shifter linkage. This goes in here. Something like that. There's a rail that goes something like that. I'm just using these right here for a counterbalance to hold this rail in place. That shock mount here, shock mount pieces. There's one that goes in front of it like that. There's two shocks on either side of on either side of the transaxle, either side of the axle, the CV axles. Well, you get the idea. Here, two shocks here. This is the first shock mount here. There's another set of these back here like this, goes right here like this. That's the second shock mount. As this comes forward, this dies into the roll bar upright right here. You can see that this cross member right here reinforces that roll bar upright from the rear. This plate right here reinforces it from the front. As this comes up, there's other pieces that flare out right here. Very, very nicely reinforced roll bar upright without having to go to like a 6-point cage or something like that and get all the bars in your way getting in and out of the car and so forth. Very pleased with the reinforcing on that roll bar cage. This is the master disconnect. Sits right up here like this, right behind the battery. Positive cable runs into it and then runs out to the electricals. This piece right here, same piece that I said we were going to reference to later. You can see how this same pattern, same motif carries on right here. And with this one, and with that front one, and on up to the front. See, that's the same pattern, same deal. What I want to do now, I took this car out of storage the other day. I needed it here to do a little comparing on it. This design is based on my old design of the steel tubing car, which this is, and I want to do a little referencing firsthand as opposed to drawings. So I have this car here to take a couple of looks at. This is a complete chassis. This is an old junk body sitting on it. This car, although it's brand new, has about outlived its usefulness. There is no use finishing this car with this old chassis design, so anybody interested, I'm going to have a bare chassis here that's perfectly good for sale very cheap soon. But what I'm intending to do is take all the brand new pieces off of this car to build this car. Pull this spare tire out of here and then come in here know how well you'll be able to see this, but again, it's the exact same geometry, and what I wanted to see is kind of the evolution of things. See this piece right here? See the shape of that? See how it goes up, reinforces the shock here, ties the A-arm there, and so forth. See how that piece right there is that piece right there? See how this whole bulkhead right here, see how the steering knuckle comes through right here? See the shape of this entire bulkhead in this plane right here like this. Let's walk back up to the front of this car again and look at something. See how that's 20 sticks of tubing, and this right here is that bulkhead. See the hole right here? That's where the steering knuckle is going to come through. This piece right here is very similar to this piece right here. It's going to use the same rack and pinion, same mount locations, all of that. Let's go around to the rear of this car. You can see that this is that steel battery mount that we talked about earlier, and even on this car it's a structural member. But see this right here, see how it's here. This is actually the piece that goes right here. You can see this motor plate right here. These bolt holes right here are these bolts right here that are going to hold the motor plate in. Got one muffler taken off right here. I had to have it the other day. The original concept of that Countach was an electric car, and there was no provisions for mufflers, so we had to measure and scan that muffler to be able to sort it out and know where it was going. But you can see on this, the sway bar that we talked about, where the mufflers, the exhaust pipes come out. Very similar geometry. See how this rear bulkhead right here, you've got, I don't know, 50, 100 pieces of tubing, all making up this bulkhead. This is the plate that I talked about, how you'll have a separate motor plate that bolts on, but look at what all went into building this bulkhead right here, and then look at that's all one piece and it's done. I think that's about it for today. Think just a second if I've omitted anything, left anything out I wanted to talk about. I guess not. Again, this is a perfectly good chassis. It's just not state of the art for the company anymore. I'm gonna have a chassis for sale cheap. I think that'll do it.